Discussion on Law on Agency, Part 4. This will cover the obligations of the principal. Okay, Article 1910, this talks about the principal's duty to comply with agent's commitments. Under the first paragraph of this article, okay, aside from acting within the scope of his authority, the agent must also act in the name of the principal and not on his own name. Otherwise, the principal is not bound except when the transaction concerns things belonging to the principal. So, ang Article 1910, simple lang nito. Okay? So, except daw, okay, that the agent must act only within the scope of his authority. Another obligation under this article is that the agent must act in the name of the principal. So, in case he will transact on behalf of the principal, examples, agent is Pedro, okay? The principal is Maria, okay? So, ang ilalagay mo doon, you have to indicate the name of Maria as the principal, okay? And you as the agent, you have to indicate also that you are the agent. Hindi lang pwedeng pangalan mo. Ilagay mo doon is agent of Maria, okay? Then your name, Pedro. So, you must also indicate your name and your authority as the agent in a very clear and specific. Okay, otherwise there might be some confusion on the third party, especially kung yung transactions is sale, mga ganyan, or loan. Kasi importante na especially if it involves real property, the authority of the agent or the authority of the agent must be in writing. So you have to indicate your name as the agent of the principal clearly and specifically. Okay, next, in Article 1911, this talks about the liability of principal because of estoppel. So what is the reason for the law? Okay, the principal may be said to be in estoppel, okay, and therefore innocent third party should not be prejudiced. It cannot be denied that in this article, okay, the principal failed to adopt the needed measures to prevent misrepresentation. So in this article, okay, ang sinasabi dito is that hindi dapat ma-prejudice, okay, hindi dapat magkaroon ng damage yung ibang party, especially the third party, by reason of fault on the part of the principal for failure to adopt the needed measures or to prevent misrepresentation. This is true especially in cases when the agent is acting on behalf of the principal. So, in this one, there will be a solidary liability. Okay, this is an instance when solidarity is imposed by law. It would seem, however, that Article 1911 is unjust, for if the agent is considered innocent and acting within the scope of his authority, he should be exempted from liability. Kindly read Article 1897. Next, Article 1912. Okay, this talks about advancing of necessary funds. Okay, in here, okay, failure of the agency through no fault of the agent must be borne solely by the principal. So, in here, it is unfair to hold this failure against an innocent agent. Why? Because the agent is innocent and merely acting within the scope of his authority. So, even if the agent is gratuitous, so ibig sabihin walang bayad, okay? This article, the Article 1912, will also be applicable. Hence, the agent will still be entitled to reimbursement and interest. Okay? This is because the reimbursement and interest is spoken of in this article, the Article 1912, okay, it does not refer to compensation or commission, but those that are expense by reason of to fully or to paano ba para ma-perfect yung contract of agency. So yung Article 1912 hindi yun hindi yung ibabayad dun sa agent is hindi sahod, okay? It's not a wage, it's not a salary, but it kasi ang Article 1912 applicable pa rin yan kahit gratuitous in nature. So kung kahit may sahod man o hindi, ang Article 1912 ang i-advance na fund dito, yung babayarang funds dito is it does not pertain to sahod. It does not pertain to any wage, but it pertains to the sum necessary for the execution of the agency. Next, Article 1913. Okay? This article pertains to the principle to compensate agent for damages. Babayaran ng principal yung agent by reason of damages. Remember, there are 6 kinds of damages. It can be immoral, exemplary, nominal, temperate, actual, or liquidated damages. In this article, Article 1913, it is based on equity, okay? And it only applies even if the agency is gratuitous. Again, gratuitous meaning walang bayad, okay? And as a matter of fact, this also applies even if the agent is paid, okay? Or with commission. So naturally, this article can be made use only if the agency exists. Otherwise, the article cannot apply. In such case, the supposed agent is not acting in behalf of the true principal, and the reason for the law would cease. Next, Article 1914. In Article 1914, this talks about the right of agent to retain by way of pledge. So, the agent here, okay, the agent may retain in pledge the things which are the object of the agency until the principal effects the reimbursement and pays the indemnity set forth in the 2 preceding articles. Kindly base that in the 2 preceding articles. Next, Article 1915. This talks about the solidarity liability of the principal. Solidarity is the rule under this article. Okay? Again, what is solidarity liability again? Okay? The fault of one is the fault of all. So, for example, si A, B, and C. Ang utang, example, gawin nating utang para mas maintindihan ninyo. Umutang A, B, C, and D. Umutang ng 100,000 si A para kay A, B, C, and D. Pag magbabayad, any of the debtor, A, B, C, and D, okay, and debtor silang umutang ha, A, B, C, and D, they can pay for 100,000 pesos in whole. Okay, it cannot be 25,000 kasi 25,000 times 4 is equal to 100,000. Kung 25 each ang magiging liability, then that is joint. Okay? Pero kung solidary, 100,000 buo dapat. Isang utang lang para sa lahat. Pero kung joint, kung ilan ang debtors, yun ang utang. Okay. So in this one, solidarity is the rule under this article because of the common transaction. Tingnan nyo, common yung transaction. Okay? Thus, even if the agent have been appointed separately, the rule should apply in the interest of justice. Example, W, X, and Y employ agent A to sell the land owned in common by the three, with agent receiving a commission of 1,500,000 pesos. If the agent is successful, agent can collect from any of the three the amount of 1,500 pesos because of their solidary liability. Of course, if in this case, di ba ang ang principal natin is si W, X at Y. So if X pays the 1,500, si X pwede siyang mag-reimbursement from the other principal who is W and Y. So 500,000 from Y and 500,000 from W. Next example, C, D, and E appoint F as their agent to sell their separate houses. Dun sa una, 'di ba, isang property lang, which is the land. In the second case, please take down. C, D, and E appoint F as their agent to sell their separate houses. So there are 3 houses: the house of C, house of D, and house of E. And the agent is F. So the liability of C, D, and E are merely joint, okay, and not solidary even if the appointment is made in one instrument. This is because this is not a common transaction, unlike the first case. Next, Article 1916. Okay. So, kindly read na lang Article 1916 kasi it's more of, naman siya. Maintindihan nyo naman by reading. The same with Article 1917. Article 1917 talks about the liability of principal if agent acted in good faith or in bad faith. Okay? Connect it with Article 1918. So, in your Article 1918, this talks about when the principal is not liable for agent's expense. In here, okay, the principal is not liable for the expenses incurred by the agent in 4 cases. The first one is if the agent acted in contravention of the principal's instruction, meaning hindi niya sinunod yung instruction ng principal. Okay, unless the latter, okay, should wish to avail himself of the benefits derived from the contract. So, kung hindi finalo ni agent yung instructions ni principal, then principal is not liable sa mga expenses na na-incur ni agent. Hindi niya kailangang bayaran si agent. Except if nagkaroon siya ng benefit on the transaction made. Another instance, when the expenses were due to the fault of the agent. Of course, will you still pay an agent who caused the damage on your part? Of course not. Okay? The reason on paragraph 2 is very self-evident. Number 3, when the agent incurred them with knowledge that unfavorable result would ensue if the principal was not aware of. The reason here is that this tantamounts to bad faith and lack of due diligence on the part of the agent. And lastly, when it's stipulated that the expenses would be borne by the agent or that the latter would be allowed only a certain amount. In here, okay, the stipulation would not contravene good morals or public policy. So that is the obligations of the principal. We'll now go to the last one, which is the modes of extinguishment of agency.